was dead because I haven't been posting. Obviously the riots and things, that happened last year, but it's okay. So today I'm going to do like more of a podcast format. Not going to be adding a lot of pictures and things, so you guys don't even have to watch the video as such, you can just listen, right? So the reason why I'm, doing this video or this discussion is because I watched Pray Away on Netflix, hashtag not sponsored, and it's very, very upsetting. It's unacceptable, it's disgusting, and if you do subscribe to the religion mentioned, I'm not here to attack you personally, I'm here to attack the organization. Well, not attack, but discuss the issues within the said documentary. Like, we all know, like, about the AIDS crisis and how that was handled by the government, and it's a gay disease and only gay people get it and everything. Come speak to the people here in Africa and they'll tell you something completely different. So the whole Pray Away thing is basically about conversion therapy, and they talk to people who have gone through that conversion therapy, and obviously the majority of them actually failed, because you can't do that. You can't, remove that whole aspect of yourself. And so I'm sitting outside, as you guys can probably hear, because I'm tired of sitting in a room and I want to be able to smoke, quite frankly, and I'm not allowed to smoke inside. So it starts off with this transgender guy. He never actually went through with the transition, and he claims that he gave his life to God, and that means he's no longer transgender. I have a few issues with that. Being transgender, which is going to go against the grain here, unfortunately, with a lot of people, but I don't care. It is caused by a mental illness called gender dysphoria. And you can't suddenly be like, okay, well, I'm no longer trans. You still have that gender dysphoria if you are really 100% transgender. And I feel for those people that do suffer from it. It can't be easy, waking up every day, looking in the mirror and thinking, this is not my body, I don't belong in this body. But you can't suddenly, because you've prayed to a deity, any form of deity, be it Vishnu, be it Krishna, be it Allah, be it Jesus, or any of the other thousands of gods out there still today, it doesn't take that gender dysphoria away. And he's like, no, I have, given my heart to God, and he's released me from being trans, and I was never actually a woman. And then he goes and he kind of does these meet up with other gay people, and they pray and everything, and they're all like, yo, well, we're no longer gay. But it's so clear that they are in their mannerisms and everything. I'm sorry, being gay has actually been seen as something that lies within your genetics, within your genes. It's not something you can get rid of. The same way you can't get rid of the fact that you have the eye color that you do, that you have the skin tone that you do. You can go for procedures, but genetically speaking, that's what it is. And I have certain people in my life that still tell me, oh yeah, but it's a choice. And I look at them and I think, you know what, if it were a choice, why would I actively choose to be gay? Where, okay, in South Africa it's not that big of an issue, but I know in like the African culture, it is a massive thing. I mean, I studied with a lot of black gay guys, and they say to me, like, my family doesn't know, or they do know, and they don't accept it, and they're not happy with it, and they want me to be straight. Now, if you face all of that and you face the discrimination and the judgment, like, walking hand in hand with your partner and people giving you that weird look, I think we've all experienced that look before as gay people. Why would we actively choose that? It's not that we're counterculture, it's not something you can choose. I mean, I tried dating a guy. I tried when I was in university. And it was great. It was a good relationship, but I think for me it was just the aspects of I don't want to be alone. I needed that physical contact. I needed somebody to hold me. I mean, we never slept together because, but I was still a virgin and I was not going to do that to him. Despite rumours going around that we had slept together, I know for a fact we never did, and so did he. And it was nice for the couple of months that it actually lasted, but ultimately I knew, hey, I'm actually still gay, and he was aware of the fact that I was gay, and he was like, you know what, I still want to try, despite all of the issues and the whole setup, because it started out as a joke to mess with our friends, to get them to think that we were dating, and then the joke was no longer a joke. Yes, if you hear dogs barking and things, there's absolutely nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. My mic is just too sensitive and I can't isolate it properly. But anyway, yeah, so, and all of these people that went through this, that they interview in the documentary, they're all like, I was lying. Yeah, I was married to this woman who this person had met in the conversion therapy, and I'm like, yes, a lesbian and a gay guy getting married, sure. And they had 2 sons, like, props to you for getting that right. Don't know how they did, but they did. Anyway, and then, he ended up going to a gay bar once, and he was seen there and photographed, and it hurt the movement and everything, and they talked to this lesbian couple, and the girl reads a chapter from the book that she had written about the whole situation, where she would burn herself out of depression and hatred and things like that, which, for me, having been addicted to self-harm for 6 years, I've been clean for 6 years. I had one slip up in 2018, and I stopped in 2017. No, I was clean for 4 years, sorry, my math is leaving me. That's not my strong point. Anyway, I identified really hard with that. And it was terrible to listen to that because, and it's all because of that whole conversion therapy nonsense that was happening to her. I mean, she was sexually assaulted when she was in college, and they forced her to incorporate this into the talks that she would give, and she didn't want to, but they eventually forced her to, which I think is absolutely disgusting. It's sick. And, they eventually disbanded the movement, but new ones have come up, which I think is very, very sad and very depressing, and it makes me so angry, because their whole argument is, like, it's not natural. And I'm like, you do know that in the animal kingdom there are cases of homosexuality, right? I mean, when I went through that whole crisis, I was in... Okay, I suspected from grade 8 that I was gay. My friends suspected it even earlier than that. And I was raised in a home where, my parents were like, especially my mother, well, we love gay people, and gay people are, some of your best friends that you can have, and there's nothing wrong with it and everything. So I knew it wasn't like I was going to be disowned, but it was only in grade 10, after I'd kissed a girl for the first time, that I realized if I was straight, I wouldn't have the reaction to that kiss the way I did. And In grade 11, I fell in love with a pen pal of mine that I'd had over Facebook in Germany. I mean, yes, she was in her 40s, but we spoke to each other every single day. Like, my mornings would start off with her messaging me and telling me I must have a great day. And things like that, you know. I'd message her in school time, you know, and I mean, because was from East Germany, when we did the Berlin Wall and everything, it was fantastic because I had like first-hand knowledge of that because she was there. So long story short, we spoke for a year, and then suddenly, like, things became hectic in her life, and she just stopped responding to me, which was extremely painful, and I remember realizing that I had very strong feelings for her, and at that point, I still went to youth, and I spoke to one of the youth leaders about it. And about a week later, I get a 3-page letter from her. Like, it wasn't A4, but still, it was 3 pages long, where she referenced scripture and told me, you know, God doesn't make homosexuals, and I need to get away from these girls that tempt me, because I had a massive crush on one of the lesbians in my high school. Massive crush, and she also went to youth. Feelings were obviously not reciprocated, unfortunately. But anyway, and I remember, like, years later, I found the letter again, and I thought, you know what did she want me to do? Did she want me to go live on an island surrounded by men? Because that is what would have happened, essentially. For me to get away from the girls that tempt me. And I mean, I struggled with that as well, you know. I mean, I went to a charismatic church and there were gay people there and they were fine with it and everything, but still, you're like, you know, God's not happy with this, he doesn't want me to be gay and all of that. And actually last night I had spoken to a friend of mine who went through the same thing, and he told me, like, he one night cried his eyes out and he was begging, literally begging God to take it away from him, to take away the fact that he was gay, and it never happened. And that was one of his first moments where he started to move away from the church and the religion. And yeah, I remember going through like a similar thing. But what surprised me the most about this whole documentary near the end is that so many people that went through this conversion therapy and this trauma and the self-hatred and the guilt and everything, they are still part of a church. And I'm like, I can't understand how you can do that. How can you remain in something that was so toxic to you in your youth? I mean, let's be honest, your sexuality is kind of set by the time you're 16. More set for men than for women. You know, you'll find women more often than not going through phases of, oh, maybe I'm bisexual, you know, maybe I'm gay. And then it turns out that they were not any of those things and they were straight, or they discover, hey, I'm asexual or whatever. But for men in general, you know, it's kind of set. Like this friend of mine, he was lucky. You know, he knew from a very young age that he was different. He just couldn't connect it to the word gay yet. It took me 5 years to accept and to be fully okay with the fact that, you know what, I am gay, because I went through a massive phase where I was like, you know, I still find men attractive and things, so maybe I'm bisexual. Turns out I was not. And it took me 5 years to come out to my mother. I came out to my father almost immediately because we were very close, and I knew he would support me regardless. But even though I knew my mom had no issues with gay people, I still thought, it's different if it's your own child. And she did accept it. She's fine with it. But like this transgender guy has a group on Facebook. This ex-transgender guy, excuse me, has a group on Facebook. And then people contact him, and his mother's like, "Oh, my son came to me and told me that he's actually a girl," and then it's that whole religious aspect of, yeah, but you see, it's the devil. It's the devil. And I'm like, what would Satan gain from this? Apparently a supposed soul, but I sit and I often think, and the whole interview with Stephen Fry a couple of years back is so beautifully put, where he was like, okay, so bone cancer in children. There's a specific kind of parasite whose main purpose is to burrow into the eyes and eat itself out of the eye. Why, if you do prescribe to the whole theory of intelligent design and it was made by a deity, whoever it is you believe is a deity, why create something like that? Why make nature so vicious and unforgiving? And I often sit and think, what? There's so much suffering. I mean, children dying at the age of 2, 3 from diseases that God could have easily cured. With a breath, even. But he's more concerned about what people do in their bedrooms, which is minuscule compared to, like, the issues of parents praying that their child survives, praying for food every night. That's not important. Helping a woman find her car keys, that's important. That's very important. But the true evil and the true suffering, that's not important. No, that's good, The deity just looks in the other direction. Which is, I can't understand it. I cannot. Like, I am religious, but not in that sense. At all. And it's so clear that these religions were based on, like, the understanding at that time. We don't know what the water cycle is, so we're gonna attribute the rainfall and things to some random deity in the sky, and if we burn our crops at this point in time, the deity will be satisfied and send rain, for example. And that was like the ultimate beginning of religion, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. It was a lack of scientific knowledge. It was a lack of understanding of the natural world around us. But to get back to the whole pray away thing, you can't pray it away. You cannot. You can pray until your voice disappears, and you can read your dogma until your eyes bleed. It's not going to change it. It is something that you are. The same way you're tall or short, you can't change that. You might get procedures done, but genetically, that's what you are. And it makes me so angry. There were a couple of times where I wanted to throw my phone while watching it, because I could, the pain and suffering and everybody, oh yes, I'm an ex-gay. And I left the homosexual lifestyle. And that whole rhetoric of, it's part of the gay agenda. And marriage is between a man and a woman, like God said it is. And I'm like, you do realize there was marriage before the conception of Christianity and Judaism, right? And that was the thing. Like your God didn't invent marriage at all. And I mean, like, even in South Africa, like, yes, we can get married, but it's not classified as the same kind of marriage that would be between a man and a woman. It's seen as a civil union. And that's the difference in terms of certain legal aspects and things. It is different. But at least we have that. But what irritates me is these supposed LGBTQAI alphabet mafia activists that claim they're so oppressed in America, which is probably one of the best countries. Like I said, it's one of the best countries to be gay in. It's not like in a lot of African countries where you get locked up in jail, or in the Arabic countries where they will throw you off of a bloody roof. How about you focus on advocating for gay rights in those countries and stop throwing hissy fits about something like pronouns and seeing that as an act of violence and hatred and things like that? There's still a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of gay rights worldwide. So, and I mean, it's not just third world countries, it's first world countries as well. I mean, only recently Germany said, you know what, you guys can get married. It astounds me. And I mean, like, we're people, just like everybody else. And in that documentary that I watched today, they were like, but, gay people want special rights. Not equal rights, they want special rights. It's like, no, we don't. We just want to be treated like bloody humans, thank you very much. And I mean, even in South Africa, not just in the African community, but in the conservative Afrikaans community, oh Lord, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. These old NG Kerk tannies. Oh. For a religion that preaches love, there's a lot of hatred. There's a lot of hatred there. I mean, one of our local legends, Steve Hofmeyer, a while ago said, but nobody can tell him what the plus in LGBTQ plus stands for. And I'm like, one Google search will give you that answer. And I'm sorry, a lot of gay people will be able to tell you what it stands for. But he equated, more LGBTQ representation on Disney would, lead children into bestiality. And I'm like, I'm gay. I have never looked at an animal and thought, I'd tap that. Never. Ever, ever, ever. In my life. And I never will. And, a lot of people actually supported him in his homophobic commentary, and they were like, oh no, it's true, and da da da. And again, mainly Afrikaans people. And I'm just like, again, for a religion that talks about love and forgiveness and leaving judgment up to God, you sure are very judgmental, and you sure are hateful, And what upsets me is people in their lives can see their comments and can hear their opinions and their thoughts on this, and these people making these comments don't necessarily know if somebody's gay or not, especially if it's like friends and family members. Those are the last, especially family members, those are the last ones you usually come out to. You always kind of just test the waters by coming out to one or two friends, and then eventually your group of friends. And then only you come out to your family, in most cases, depending on your relationship with the parent. And they see these comments and they're like, well, this person is never ever going to accept me. And that leads to depression. That leads to suicide. Which is very, very sad. And is very unnecessary in our day and age. And I mean, we have so much representation now in the media. I wish that had been around when I was young. And I mean, I was a born-free baby. I was a 1994 baby. It's not like I was born in the 1960s. But still, had I had more representation and seen more of it on TV, it would have been easier for me to be more comfortable with the idea, and it wouldn't have taken me 5 years to be like, you know what, I'm gay, and that's okay. So, I mean, the LGBT youth now are very lucky, and they're very privileged in that sense. But I mean, I remember 2017 where there was a kiss on Siemdalang between two men, and the Afrikaans community lost their minds. So my friend and I went to find this clip, and it was the stupidest kiss in that whole series. It wasn't even passionate. And I mean, on that series, I have seen such intense makeout sessions that these actors end up rolling around on the floor making out, and I'm like, this is what you want to complain about? Where the series has shown far more passion and stuff like that. You want to complain about this, and again, the homophobia in this country is so clearly revealed there in these kind of situations. And you'll find it's mainly from a religious point of view. And that's why I'm not a big fan of monotheism, because it is, in a sense, it's total indoctrination. I mean, and somebody actually pointed it out in this documentary. She had watched one of the newer organizations, and she was like, it's so clear that this is indoctrination. You're made to think, you're bad. How can you be gay? It's against God's will, and God doesn't make homosexuals. Like, that whole argument for me now, in many cases, is just ridiculous. It's pathetic. It's a very stupid argument, if you ask me. Again, just look at the natural world. But on the other hand, my heart breaks for the gay youth today, because of the intensity of the transgender movement. I sympathize and empathize with people suffering from actual gender dysphoria. Like, if you look at somebody like Blair White, for example, like her struggle that she went through. She, even though, I mean, if I saw Blair in the streets, I would think she was a woman, through and through. Regardless whether she's had all the surgeries or not, she looks like an actual woman. And she talks very openly about her gender dysphoria, and the fact that even though she's transitioned, she still suffers from it. She still gets moments of gender dysphoria. And, but now, I've seen so many videos of teachers talking about gender identity and sexual orientation to kindergartners, and I'm like, kindergartners are not supposed to know about this. They don't even know what gender identity means. At this point in their development, they're still very self-centered and narcissistic of, things must go my way, I am the center of the universe. They still don't take other people into account. But you're talking to them about genitalia. That's sick, that's wrong, and that is not your job as a teacher at all. You should not be allowed near kids if you do that. I mean, I had seen a video where this person literally just got appointed as a teacher to 4th graders. I don't know how old they are in America, but I mean, for us, they're like, 9, 10 years old. And She was more concerned about. Oh, she's non-binary, but presents as a woman, and she's like, I don't know, like, what should they call me? Should they call me Miss, or should they call me Mister? I don't know. And I'm like, rather than stressing about something as stupid and pointless as that, how about you stress about how you're going to interact with these kids, what you're going to teach them, how you're going to teach them, how are you going to make it exciting for them, how are they going to remember the lesson? Because, I mean, that was one of the main things I worried about when I just did my practicals. Because, I mean, when you study education and you specialize in your subject, you're surrounded by people that understand the advanced jargon, like especially for those of us that did science. I mean, if I talk about atoms, everybody around me knows what an atom is and knows the points of it and knows about the valence electrons and the types of, is it a covalent, and is it what do they share electrons or not? And now suddenly, without any real preparation, and I think our methodology really, really failed us. We were now thrown into situations where we had to speak to grade 4 to 6s, also grade 7 to 9s, on their level about science and teach them that. And it took me like about 2 weeks to dumb myself down onto their level in terms of science and trying to come up with interesting associations to help them understand what I'm trying to say. Like, for example, the arrangement of particles. Like in a solid, it would be putting everybody that's in the school in the hall. You guys are going to be very, very close together. You're not really going to be able to move. Whereas the way we are in the classroom right now, I can move between you guys. You guys can move amongst each other. So that would be like the particles in a liquid. Whereas if I take you out to the field and I tell you to go play and spread out, that would be the state of a gas. Having to get to that point was really difficult. And I mean, when we did our discussions with our lecturers that had come to crit us and grade us and everything, all of us said the same thing. It took us a while to get onto their level. Whereas this chick is more concerned about what their kids should call her. Another one is so proud. I spoke to like my kindergartners about non-binary and I'm like, kindergartners can't even write their names. How are they supposed to understand something as complex as non-binary and sexual identity and things? That's not something that should be discussed with children. And that's what concerns me, is this whole idea of gender identity and things being pushed onto children that are very, very young and very easily influenced. And I personally feel like you should only be allowed to go for hormone replacement therapy and things like that when you're 18 and above. In the meantime, if you do suffer from gender dysphoria, you need to seek psychological and psychiatric help, that they can help you deal with it. And only after years and years of therapy, if you still feel I'm trapped in the wrong body, then yes. But having 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds go onto hormone replacement therapy and all of that kind of stuff is terrifying. It messes you up. It sterilizes you, first of all. Second of all, your sexual organs become numb. You cannot, for the rest of your life, receive any kind of pleasure from sex. That is disgusting. That is abuse, in my personal opinion. And I know a lot of people are going to come after me for this opinion. But you're part of the LGBT community. Yes, I am. But that doesn't mean a community gets to speak for me. I have my own opinions. I have my own mind. Thank you very much. A community does not speak for me. The same way I don't allow teaching communities to speak for me. If a group of teachers say, oh no, we think the South African education system is fantastic, which most of them will never say, but let's say they do, I will disagree with him, and I will point out the flaws in the system and in the curriculum and in the classes that are overflowing. I will do so. Because a group doesn't speak for me. Evidence and proof speaks to me. That I will agree with. And what's worse is these doctors who are against HRT and allowing children to transition, they lose everything. Their name gets absolutely destroyed on social media. Their credibility is questioned. Meanwhile, they're only acting in the best interest of their patient. But because it doesn't fit the social narrative, you're now suddenly a homophobe and a transphobe and a what, you know? Which is disgusting. And I think 10 years from now, I hope we see a lot of lawsuits. And I mean, so many people have started detransitioning already, saying, like, that wasn't me. I was not transgender. Turns out I was just gay, or I was very confused, or whatever. And I mean, like, my friend's fiance is very feminine. Had he been young now, they would have probably tried to tell him, you know what, tell him and his parents. That's not your son, that's your daughter. Children cannot, I mean, this is why we don't allow people to vote until they're 18. We don't allow them to drive until they're 18. We don't allow them to drink until they're 18 or 21. Because by that time, you can understand the consequences of your actions and the ramifications and everything. But before that, you still struggle to understand it. And I mean, the human brain is only fully developed at the age of 25. That's been scientifically proven. There's no argument about that. But we are allowing teenagers and children to say, no, I am transgender. You don't know what that means. You don't know what all of that entails. Like I said, you need proper counseling and therapy to establish that in the first place. You know, and just because I have these opinions, I'm apparently a transphobe. Just even the fact that, like, if you don't want to date or are remotely interested in somebody who's transitioned, you're a transphobe. I'm sorry, I don't want to be with a woman that was a man once. I'm not interested. I was put in that kind of position once while I was studying, where I had met this girl and she was fantastic, she was beautiful, we got along very well and everything, and then she told me she was trans. And as much as I enjoyed her company and everything, I was like, I cannot do this to you. I cannot be in a relationship with you or even explore the idea of a relationship with you if you're going to end up being a man, because I am not attracted to men in that sense. I am good. I can deal without. And you'll find also with a lot of people that have transitioned, there are also underlying mental illnesses. Not with all, but they find that, okay, I've transitioned, I've undergone all the surgeries and the treatment and everything, but I'm still unhappy. And then it turns into substance abuse or whatnot. Vicious cycle, because the other issues were not addressed. That's why I'm very much for counseling and therapy and talking to actual professionals that aren't being bullied to put aside their own professional opinions. You know, America is having a hissy fit about J.K. Rowling, but they should actually be very concerned about what is happening to their children and their youths. Because it's not fair, it's not right, and it's not right of parents even to push this whole idea onto them. And I mean, it's sickening. And I feel the same way about like this conversion therapy. You cannot. It doesn't work. And people that tell you it works, they're lying. They're lying to you and they're lying to themselves. End of story. Whether they're aware of it or not doesn't matter. They're lying. If you take one of those men and tell him, and that says, I am an ex-gay, and you throw him into a gay bar with a bunch of beautiful gay men, yeah, see what comes out of that. Just go search his internet history, and you'll find that he's not telling the truth. Same with the lesbian. It's the exact same with the lesbian. And I find it so funny that like some of these people that went through this conversion therapy, like the gay guy ended up marrying the lesbian, and I'm like, well, that's perfect. Because then you guys can indulge in your homosexual urges. And it wouldn't cause a lot of conflict in an ideal situation, because you both know that this is a sham. This is fake. Because deep down I am actually still, attracted to women or to men or whatever the case may be. And it's a massive hurdle towards self-acceptance, because it does take a while to accept the fact that you're gay. Some people take longer than others. I've known of people that took like 6 years to be like, you know what, maybe I'm not straight. And then they end up being in a gay relationship and they couldn't be happier. And then finally the light goes on and they're like, oh wow, how could I ever have thought, that I was straight? And I go through that personally. If I sit now and I look back on my life, it's very comical to me to think about certain situations and go, how did I ever think that I was straight? Yes, I had a massive crush on Orlando Bloom. Yes, I had a massive crush on Johnny Depp. Still do. Beautiful men stay beautiful men. But I mean, I had a picture, like my whole bedroom was literally, the walls were a collage of favorite actors and artists and everything. But there was a picture of Mariah Carey in a wet bathing suit against my cupboard where I could see it every morning. And I just, at that point, I don't think I clicked. I just thought it was a really, really hot picture, but it didn't, the dots didn't connect in my head until I sat back and thought about it. And I'm like, oh, goodness me. You were so gay, it's not even funny. I mean, I remember when I was young and we would be in the mall or whatever, I'd always say to my mom, wow, that woman is really beautiful. She is gorgeous. And I mean, as a child, you sit and you think, every woman thinks like that. Because it's very common for women to compliment other women, but I don't think it went with the same intensity that mine did. And, my mom actually then said to me a couple of years ago, I knew that you were gay before you knew. And I feel in those kind of situations, the same with my friend, his mother knew long before he knew. And I mean, he sent me pictures of when he was a child. I'm just like, dude, you were so gay. You were so gay. Parents are, funnily enough, always the first to know. But I feel then it's the responsibility of the parent to very subtly approach their child and say, you know what, I'm not saying you are, but if you are gay, I will love you regardless. I will not disown you. I will not kick you out of the house. Nothing. I will still love you, and you will still be my child. That already makes it a lot easier to come out. A lot easier. And like my friend said to me last night, I want to get to a point, I want society to get to the point where me saying that I'm gay is the same as me saying I prefer dark chocolate to white chocolate. Oh, okay, yeah, lovely. It's not going to turn into an argument or a massive discussion or, people giving you a funny look and stuff like that. I mean, I met him at work, and just when he said hello to me, I was like, you gay. But I didn't know how the staff, because they were all Afrikaans, viewed being gay at work and whether he was out and open about it. And so I very subtly asked him, do you have rainbow blood? And he looked at me and he said, yes. Why? And I'm like, oh, because I do too. And he's like, oh, high five. And one of the other teachers in the smoking section heard us, and she was like, what did she ask you? No, she asked if I was gay. And I'm like, so you're out? Yes, I am. And I'm like, and they're fine with that? Yeah, no problem. I'm like, okay, cool. So immediately I felt more comfortable coming out and being out. And the same at my new job. I mean, I crack jokes about it. If somebody says to me, like, they're trying to give me directions to a place, yeah, so you just carry on straight. And then I look at them and I'm like, so I basically must do what I'm not. And then they laugh at me and they're like, yeah, this is going to be a new experience for you, kind of thing. Because I want people to see, like, I don't take it that seriously. We can make jokes about it as long as you guys are not homophobic towards me and call me a faggot or a dyke or whatever. I'm fine. I'm fine with it, And I mean, because I walk funny and my leg is skew and my back is skew, I say to people, you know what, it's very surprising that people didn't click that I was gay sooner, because I came out skew. And I am skew. Which works better in Afrikaans, because gay people are referred to as skiff, and then they fucking, they lose their minds. They think it is absolutely hysterical, and I'm like, well, it's the truth. Like, I'm so gay I can't even walk straight. Which is the absolute truth. People that know me know this about me. People that see me walk, they know. But yeah, so those are my thoughts, like, on Pray Away, the documentary, and just being gay in general. And I mean, it is Pride Month, and I kind of feel it's a bit weird for South Africans to be like, oh yeah, it's Pride Month, where our Pride is only in, like, October. Yeah, but also the whole argument that was brought up in that documentary by some people, especially with Proposition 8s back then. Yeah, well, if we let gay people get married, then, it should be fine for a pedophile to marry a child. And it's like, no, it's not what we're saying. None of us want that at all. And even, like, with this whole new movement in America, pedophiles are no longer called pedophiles. They identify as minor attracted persons, or MAPS. And I'm like, no, you're a pedophile. Own it. Like, pedophilia is very sick, and I think it's very sad if you know that you are a pedophile, and you know that you you have to endure these urges. I don't have a problem with non-offending pedophiles. I have an issue with those that do offend. Those that are able to recognize, you know what, I have a sexual perversion, so I'm going to go out of my way not to traumatize and ruin a child. Respect to you. Respect to you. But I still feel these people need to be removed from society. And again, with the whole Steve Hofmeyr nonsense, gay men especially have been fighting that stigma of, yeah, but you know, they are trying to get our children and they're all pedophiles and whatnot. And it's like, no, they're not. They just love men. Like, I remember my grandfather, may his soul rest in peace, he would say to me, like, I can't understand how a man can like a man and how a woman can like a woman. Bear in mind, he was 90 when he passed away. And I didn't expect him to understand. As long as he didn't give me issues, it was fine. You know, as long as he didn't discard me and say, you know what, you're no longer my granddaughter and I want nothing to do with you. I didn't expect him to understand because it's a completely different world that he comes from. And he's like, yo, I've always loved women. And I'm like, well, Oppa, that's something we have in common. And he would laugh and he was like, yeah, but still, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yes, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying that I understand that. I also prefer women to men, you know. And he would sometimes be like, yeah, whenever he went to get his prostate checked, he realized that he wasn't gay. And I'm like, yes, because that is how you test that you're gay. And I've met all of the comments before of, you just haven't found the right man. Okay, well, how do you know you're not gay if you've never been with somebody of the same sex? Yeah, but I know that I'm straight. And I'm like, exactly. That's how I know that I'm gay. I don't need to be with a man intimately to know that I'm gay. You know, and I've also had comments, oh, but you're too pretty to be a lesbian. And I'm like, really? Really? Because I've seen some damn hot lesbians before. You know? I've seen some really pretty ones. So I think their whole conception of, yeah, but, you know, they're all these butch, I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna beat you up kind of girls. And I'm like, no. Or, you know, like, you know, you're just confused. It's a phase. It's a choice. And I'm like, yes. Same way, it's a phase and a choice for you to be straight, apparently. And I hate the fact that that narrative still persists in this day and age. It's really, it's sad. It really is sad. But I must say, we have made a lot of progress. And if you just want to see, like, the manipulation and the absolute evil, sorry to say, of something like religious conversion therapy, pray away will, yeah, it'll do that for you. Like I said, if you believe that it's a sin and everything, like, just also remember, they always say you love the sinner, but you hate the sin. And then I want to kind of turn that phrase around and say, well, then I can dislike the belief, but not the believer. You know, I can sit with anybody of any religion without any personal conflict of, oh, but this goes against my religion and this goes against that. I can sit and have a civilized conversation with them. And if it gets heated, it gets heated. But I will remain completely respectful. You know, If they treat me with respect, I will treat them with respect. If there is no respect from their side, they will not get respect from me. And I will go hard. And I will point out the flaws and everything. Flaws that I myself am very, very aware of. Yeah. So I don't mind talking to individuals of different religions, be it Islam, be it Judaism, whatever. Satanism, I particularly don't have an issue with talking to Satanists. On the contrary, I find it very interesting to actually sit with them and be like, okay, so what's been said in the media for all of these decades? What of it is true and what of it is not? Like, do you guys sacrifice babies? That whole narrative and whatnot. And then they sit and they answer my questions. And they will ask me questions. And I will answer them. That's the whole point. You need to understand before you can deliver judgment. If you don't understand something, you actually need to sit and read up about it. I don't care what your dogma says. But you can't outright attack something if you don't know what the truth is. You know what I'm saying? But anyway. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. If you're South African, I hope you've been having a fantastic long weekend. It's going to be the last one in a very long time. If you're a teacher, don't worry, it's almost the end of term. We're nearly there. But anyway, enjoy, stay safe, stay warm, stay cool, whatever works for you in the climate that you're in. And we'll chat again soon. Cheers, guys.